And welcome back to our fasting review. I am 66 hours, a little bit over 66 hours into this week's fast, heading to 72 hours. And we're talking all about fasting. We're doing a breakdown. What are the benefits of fasting? How do we get into a fast? How do we move through a fast? And of course, how do we break a fast? Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to put their diabetes in remission, who want to get off of medication, who want to improve their health, metabolic health. In fact, who want to reverse their diabetes. That's what we're doing here on the show. And we're using fasting as one of those fascinating, most amazing tools that we have in our tool bag to be able to do that. If you're new to me as well, go ahead and put new in the comments because we'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music and let you know that we are happy that you are in the space with us. If you're new and you have questions, go ahead and put a Q in front of that question so that we'll know that that's a question that we need to get to. We are on a little early today, but that's okay. Whatever platform you're joining us from, LinkedIn, if you're on TikTok, well, not TikTok, but Twitch. If you're here on YouTube, of course, Facebook, and then, of course, if you are on any other platforms, Instagram, for example, we welcome you to the show today. This is going to be a great episode because we're doing our review as we normally do, as we talk about what's been going on with my blood sugars and also looking to see how we can set ourselves up for success as we move through the fasting space. And as we do, whenever I come on and do these check-ins, I've got my monitor that we're going to take a look at right here. We've got my Keto Mojo and my Contour. And then, of course, right below is my Dexcom Clarity Report, and we'll see what's been going on with my blood sugars over the last several days as I've been fasting. Whenever I come to fast, whenever I come on to do a check-in, the first part of what I want to do is actually do a check-in. But before I do that, let's talk a little bit about what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing, and set a little background and give a little backdrop on where we are. So this month, November, is actually Diabetes Awareness Month. And on the 14th is World Diabetes Day. There are over 1 billion people on the planet with diabetes or pre-diabetes right now. That does not take into consideration all of the people that are out there that are suffering from other metabolic diseases like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, coronary artery disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, polycystic ovarian syndrome. All of those are spectrums along the disease process. And diabetes is the prototypic prototypic metabolic disease. What that means is that there are things in diabetes that touches all of the other metabolic diseases. And if we can figure out a way to manage, to treat, to improve diabetes, then we're setting ourselves up for success in all those other areas. As we've moved through the New Year, New You process, and you'll hear me saying that over and over and over, as we move through the New Year pathway, if you will, the goal has been to reverse diabetes. How do we get people off of their medication, improve their metabolic health, and to help them move into a direction where they are being successful in their metabolic health? One of the tools that we've used is the tool of fasting. There are several that we've learned that we have been using over the course of this pathway. Emotional intelligence, how to create a meal plan, what are the triggers, right? The heat model, the cope model. How do we deal with those things that are pushing us to eat? We have the balanced bites idea, right? Which are those things that we eat. How do we create a meal? Decreasing our processing, make sure that we don't have any added sugars, portion control, starchy, non-starchy vegetables, and on and on and on. All of those are some of the tools that we've been using. And one of the most powerful tools that we have in our tool bag is the tool of fasting. Okay, and we've done reviews on the different types of fasts. We've done reviews on the disease processes that fasting is helping with, and we'll come back and do more of those. But there's a vast move in the direction of fasting within healthcare because it is so profound, the impact that you get from fasting. And so in our course, we've been using fasting as one of our tools. And on a weekly basis, I've been doing a 72-hour, that's right, a 72-hour fast to illustrate and to look at blood sugars and see some of the metabolic benefits that you get from fasting. Many of you that are out there, that are in the community, you've contacted me to let me know that you're fasting. When I see you in the office, you're fasting, you're asking about fasting, and we have people that are getting amazing results. People who are getting off medications. As a matter of fact, we have one of our community members who has helped me understand a phrase, and it's called Wonderland. We were on a show, and she kept saying Wonderland, Wonderland. And I was like, what is Wonderland? And she says, that's when your weight is in the 100s. And if you guys have followed me, you know kind of my story, topping 285 pounds at one time as the endocrinologist with diabetes, with an A1C that was out of control. And I come on and I share with you now where I am in that journey so that you could understand that this is not something that is uncontrolled or uncontrollable. It can be controlled if we have the tools. And usually when we don't succeed in different things, it's not because we don't have the desire. It's not even because we don't have the drive. It's because we don't have a structure that within which we can be successful. And so here on Dwain Woode MD, we give you a structure. We use our platform, educating, empowering, and encouraging. We're using that platform, that triple E formula for success, to help set you up to be where you need to be metabolically. And so fasting, one of the reasons that we like fasting is that fasting hits all the pillars of reversing diabetes, decreasing insulin, suppressing the appetite, and then, of course, reducing sugar. Because it does that, it is a powerful tool. Another powerful tool that we have in our toolbox that hits all three is also this idea of balanced bites. And you'll hear more of that as we move through throughout the shows and seasons and so forth. And that will be, these are the things that we have in our toolbox that help us move in the direction of being successful. Okay, so with that as a backdrop, every week we come on and every week we do these check-ins where we're letting you know where we are, looking at blood sugars so that you could see what is possible and see what is happening in my space, and you can share what's happening in your space as well. And so I see, just before we go to check-in, I see one of our community members out there, Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer, how are you doing? Glad that you are hanging out here with us. And let me just put that up so we can say hi to Jennifer. She said, howdy all. Currently, she's on hour 19, planning to fast for another 26. Awesome, awesome. I love that. So that gives us 30, 40, wow, 45. Jennifer, good for you. All right. And as you see, right, so Jennifer's sharing that she is in the process of fasting, and that's what the community is about, so that we can share with each other, we can support each other as we're moving through this space. All right. So whenever I do my check-in, and I say to you, whenever you are doing anything that you want to change, anything that is important that you want to track, you want to make sure that you're checking in with yourself, see how are you doing with the process. Okay, how are things going? And you'll see there are three areas that people typically will have difficulty with, how they're doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. And so physically, I'm actually feeling energetic. I've gotten good sleep, good rest over the course of this past week. You know, in previous weeks, we've had some times when it has not been that great in terms of rest, but this week has been good. I have let's see. I went to bed. I've been going to bed earlier. I think that has been the key. And here, in fact, I have my alarm set, and I've been waking up before the alarm because I've gotten good rest. So that's an amazing process, right? So often people, when they're not rested, will feel the symptoms of feeling like they're weak, tired, feeling sluggish. And we'll talk more about that as we get into the review of the fasting. But right now I'm feeling energetic. I'm not feeling as though I'm walking through quicksand or mud, as some people will say. And I'm not feeling lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, not feeling palpitations like my heart's racing or skipping a beat. Got my trusty cup here, so I'm hydrating. All right. Mentally, I'm feeling clear. Once again, another place where people will say that if they're not rested, then they end up feeling like they are grasping for words, that they're in a bubble, that everything is kind of fuzzy and hazy, right? That foggy brain. And right now, I'm not feeling any of that because I think I'm rested, and so that's translating or carrying over into my mentation. And then, of course, emotionally, got a lot of things going on this weekend. And so I'm excited about some of the things that are coming up. And just, yeah, I'm just full of energy. In fact, one of the things that gives me energy is actually coming on. You know, whenever I do a show, I think I've mentioned you can probably screw a light bulb into my mouth and it would light up with the energy that I get from this space. So that's how I'm doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. And as you are fasting, you want to make sure that you have a time where you're checking in with yourself to make sure that you are listening to your body, because sometimes the body will tell us stuff, and if we're not careful, if we're not listening, we'll kind of plow through, and we'll set ourselves up for not being as successful as we could be. Because the brain, the body remembers how we feel at any particular time. And so it will remind you of that as we move into various spaces. Okay? All right. And then let me just hop over and just make a plug here for our fasting. Right? So over the last, so we've been fasting and we've been doing that weekly, and we do the check-ins. And so our last 2 episodes that we've done have been about the science of fasting. Oh, sorry, it's the science of hunger. Hunger is the thing that derails many of us in our fasting process. And so we started a series called The Science of Hunger. We did the first episode 2 episodes ago. Last one, the last episode, we'll come back next week and do a couple more episodes. Then we'll do our check-in on Friday, and then 2 more episodes. So there'll be a total of 6 episodes within that space. We may add more, but for now, we're anticipating 6 episodes in that space talking about the science of fasting. We gave a general overview of how I keep saying fasting because we're fasting today. We gave a general overview of hunger, what the difference is between physiologic and psychological hunger. And we talked about the hormones and the parts of the brain that control hunger. Yesterday in our episode, we talked about how ketones, which come from fasting or ketogenic diet or lots of different ways to get them, how those impact our hunger. How do ketones suppress our appetite? Fascinating discussion. Make sure you get back out there and watch those. And those are actually, I created a playlist. We're always talking about these playlists. And so there are several playlists that are out there on our the YouTube channel, but the one I just created that gives us this space is the science of hunger. Okay, so the science of hunger. And so make sure that you get out there and begin watching that, because it's a very good discussion to have as you are moving into the space of metabolic health. All right, so now let's take a look at There we go. Let's take a look at our blood sugars. And so this is my Freestyle Libre, and you'll see there that for most of today, my blood sugar has been right below 70. You see the green, the darker green area that's near the bottom of the screen there. You see the red line, squiggly line that's going across. That's my blood sugar. And for most of today, my blood sugar has been below 70. The dashed red line that's right above the squiggly line, that's 70. And right now, you'll see my blood sugar is 54. If I go over, let's get over here, this is my Dexcom. And you see my Dexcom says that my blood sugar is 70. And if I put my finger, I can kind of run over there. And so we've been low 90s. Right. So and then of course 54 earlier. And you'll see the break. Let me change this to, yeah, that's the 24 hour. So yesterday my sensor went out and I put it on actually on the show. And so this is the last little bit, last day or so of blood sugars that's there. We'll come back and we'll take a look at what my clarity report says in just a little while, so you'll see that as well. Okay, and then let's take a look at my monitor. So here I have my Keto Mojo and I have my contour meter. Let's go ahead and grab a strip. We'll grab a test strip for the contour and get that in there, and we'll see what those are. If you think you know what my ketones are going to be after over 66 hours of fasting, go ahead and drop that in the comments. Yesterday, I think, if I remember correctly, and I'll put that up on the screen so that we can see that. So yesterday, my ketones were 1.4, and that was at 49 hours of fasting. So here I have my ketone or my blood sugar strip for the Keto Mojo, and I'm going to go ahead and open this one up as well because I want it to be ready. This is the ketone strip. We'll put that one over on this side. Okay, and then get into my little. Let's do this. Get into my little container, and we'll get a lancet, and I've become partial to these because they're pretty simple. I just kind of screw this top off, and you'll see there, you should see a little needle. There you go. And find a finger. Let's do this one. Yeah, let's put it here so you can see. Ow, ow, ow. Hopefully that gave me a good. Okay, I think that's good enough. All right, here we are. Okay, so get that going. Get this one going. And you see the Keto Mojo says I'm 68 in terms of blood sugar. And my contour right now says I'm 64. And let's go back and take a look at these guys. And so this says 54 for the Freestyle Libre and 73 for the Dexcom. Let's go ahead and get that strip out. This is my ketone strip. And go ahead and get that started. And of course, I'm not going to show you what that is right away. I'm going to let that run. And then we will take a look at something else while that's going. I'm going to get that off that screen because I don't want you to see that quite yet. All right, so that is that's where we are, and so let's talk now and get into our discussion. When we are talking about metabolism, a lot of what happens within metabolism is connected to each other. For example, insulin is one of those hormones that is great at what it does. It lowers blood sugar, and we love the fact that that's what it does. But when insulin is too high, it's too elevated, it causes downstream issues. For example, insulin stimulates the appetite. What that means is that you could be full, just finish eating. If I gave you some insulin, or your body produces too much insulin, then your appetite would be stimulated and you feel like you're hungry all the time. One of the complaints that people who are who have insulin resistance, and that, insulin resistance leading to diabetes, right? That's one of the things we talk about. So people who have diabetes, who are on insulin, or whose bodies are making insulin, that's one. Or people who are not diabetic, but they have hyperinsulinemia. That means their body's producing more insulin than normal, right? Those pre-diabetics. Or people who struggle with weight, which we know is an insulin issue. One of the complaints is that I think about food all the time. Like I wake up thinking about food. I have breakfast and I'm thinking about lunch. I have lunch and I'm wondering what I'm going to have for a snack. I have a snack and I'm thinking about dinner, and before I go to bed, I need to have a snack because I need something before I go. So the food, that food noise is always there. That's an insulin issue. It's an insulin issue. Because the body has elevated insulin, then other things, in addition to the appetite, other things are happening. Weight gain. Insulin is it's an anabolic hormone. What does that mean? It means it builds. So when we take insulin, insulin comes out and insulin signals the body that, hey, it's time to store. So that when insulin is elevated, people are saying, and you know, folks, and you may be one of those people, I am exercising, I am eating right, I think, based on what I'm being told, but yet I'm not able to lose weight. Well, we're not able to lose weight because the insulin level in our body is elevated, and anytime insulin is elevated, it tells the body to store. So you could eat broccoli, you could eat salad, you could eat rice cakes, and because your insulin is elevated, your body is going to store the calories that come from that. Insulin makes blood vessels less elastic, right? They don't stretch as well. Because they don't stretch, the force of the blood that's going through the vessels, right, increases, right, because it's less compliant. And that is called high blood pressure. Notice all these downstream things. Insulin, when insulin is elevated, it disrupts the pituitary. It disrupts the signals for FSH and LH. Those are the things, the hormones that are responsible for sperm production and for menstrual cycles in women. And so because it disrupts that pulsatile nature that's needed for menstrual cycles, so women develop what's called polycystic ovarian syndrome. All because of insulin. When insulin is trying to store, right, one of the places it tries to put sugar is into the liver as what? As glycogen, right? It stores glycogen. When the liver becomes full, then everything gets packaged and it goes to the fat cells. As it travels through the blood, you get your blood work, and your cholesterol level is elevated. So now we have hypercholesterolemia. And I already said that insulin's putting sugar into the liver. What's that called? It's called fatty liver. So this all comes, and this doesn't even have to get to the point of being diabetic. We're just talking about having too much insulin on board. That idea of hyperinsulinemia. So if insulin is there, it's elevated, you're on insulin, you have medications that are forcing your body to make more insulin, these are the complications, well, some of the complications, I haven't even gone through all of them, these are some of the complications that come from having too much insulin. So when I talk to patients, I talk to clients, and they're asking my advice, the very first thing that I want to do is I want to decrease the amount of insulin that's in your body, that's in their body. And that is the very first pillar of reversing diabetes. Because if I could do that, then I am already dealing with a lot of the metabolic issues that they are experiencing. So decrease insulin. When I decrease insulin, I automatically am suppressing the appetite, because we just said that insulin is an appetite stimulant. And so if I've decreased it, then my appetite is not as big. And because my appetite is not as big, that's the second pillar, now I don't eat as much sugar, and I've just hit the third pillar by reducing sugar. You see that? See that cascade? And that's why fasting is such a fascinating process, because it hits all of those, and it has lots of downstream benefits. That's also why, even if you're not diabetic, fasting is an amazing tool that you can use that sets yourself up for being better in your metabolism, improving where you are, improving lots of those non-diabetic chronic diseases. And so in this space, we talk about fasting. So fasting is what we're doing as we move through that process. That's why we are fasting. So when I talk about fasting, there are, we talk about all about fasting, all right? What do you need to know about fasting? And when I break fasting up, I typically talk about fasting in 3 different phases, right? Preparing for the fast, getting through the fast, and then, of course, breaking the fast. Because each component, each phase is super, super important, right? Because if we don't prepare well, then we don't get into the fast well. If we don't understand what's going on in our body during the fast and are taking steps to help that, then we don't have a good fasting experience. And then if we break the fast in a way that is not appropriate, we can undo all the benefits that we now had in the fast. Or I should say a lot of the benefits, not all of them, but okay? So we talk about preparing for the fast, getting through the fast, and then, of course, breaking the fast. So as we prepare for the fast, it's very important. It's very important that this is a process, understanding that fasting is not just about stopping food. Fasting is a physical, it is a mental, and it also is an emotional process. Because when you fast, there are all kinds of hormonal changes that go on. There are physiologic changes that happen. There are hormones that come out that change how our brain works during fasting. There are processes that get moving, get jump-started, like autophagy when we fast. So it's not just, okay, I'm not eating. There's a whole cascade of things that happens as we move into the fasting space, and that is so important. And all of those we want to harness, and we want to be able to use them for our benefit as we are setting ourselves up, and you keep hearing me say that, for metabolic success. Okay, so preparing for the fast, preparing for your fast. Why is preparation key for the fast? Preparation is key because as we're preparing the body, particularly as we do extended fast, and we're reducing the shock that the body may go through. The initial fasting is a stress on the body. And those initial hours of fasting, right, cortisol levels actually go up. Because remember, cortisol is responsible for finding energy for stressful situations. Okay? So preparing for the fast decreases the shock, particularly as we're doing extended fast. And when I say extended fast or prolonged fast, we're talking about fasts that last 24 hours or longer. Now, there are benefits to all of the fasting. All of the fasting give benefits, including things like 12 and 12, 16-8, alternate day fasting, and so on and so forth. All the fasting gives benefit, but as we get into a longer fast, you want to make sure that you're doing a good job of preparing for those as well. When we prepare, we minimize the common side effects like fatigue, headaches, and irritability. If you don't rest well and you go into a fast, you're going to feel some of the changes that are going on more profoundly. And often people will say, oh, the fasting didn't work. But it's not that the fasting didn't work, it's that we didn't do a good job of preparing. So like I mentioned before, I this week have done a great job, I think, of getting rest. In previous weeks, if you've been watching, that I've been getting to bed later, and I feel those during the fast. And if we're not careful, then we say, okay, the fast didn't work, but it's not really the fast. It's that we didn't do a good job of preparing, okay? Irritability as well. We'll talk about irritability in another area here, but irritability comes when we don't do a good job of eating nutrient-dense foods. Right? We get into the fast and we're irritable because we didn't do nutrient-dense foods, or we had high-carb foods, and now we are feeling the effects of having hyperinsulinemia as the body dealt with those carbs that we ate just before we came into the fast. We'll talk about that in just a minute. right? And then when we prepare, it helps us maintain focus. So as we're preparing, it's not just about eating and resting, but it's also about telling ourselves what it is we are really doing. Why am I doing this? What is my why? What is the benefit that I'm looking for? So as I'm preparing for the fast, I'm also setting myself into the mind space of getting through the fast. Right? You know there are things that you do that you got to prepare yourself. Like when athletes are about to perform, they're not just out there just hanging out. They are putting themselves in a space, mind space, that gets them the benefit they want. The same thing for fasting. You got to prepare yourself, not just physically, also mentally. Okay? So that's why preparing is key. So mental preparation. Set clear goals. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? How many hours are you going to be fasting? How long are you going to be? Are you doing a 16-8 fast or alternate day, one meal a day? So what is the goal? And what is the metabolic benefit that we're looking at? We're looking at reversing diabetes, improving my blood sugar, improving my A1C, lowering my cholesterol, helping with my blood pressure so I can get off of medication, helping with my weight. Now, that's a big one for me. Right? Blood sugar and weight. Those are the two places where I have struggled personally. And so for me, fasting is an amazing tool because I feel like I have control. I can put it down when I don't need it and pick it up. I can use it at will. But what is the goal? What is your goal? What's your reason? Visualize your success. The brain is an amazing machine. It has the ability to encourage you when you tell it the vision that you have. The story that you tell the brain, the story that you tell yourself, when the brain believes that, it begins looking for things around you to make that come true. So if you say to yourself, well, I can never do that, or I'm no good at this, or I always fail at this, what the brain starts doing is it starts looking for times where that is true. Well, if you say you never do that, I'm going to create a situation where that is not happening. If you say you can never memorize that, well, I'm going to make you tired. I'm going to make you distracted. I'm going to make somebody call you. I'm going to make you look at something else. Everything that I could do to help that come true, because the brain does not like to be wrong. So on the opposite side, if I tell myself that I can successfully make it through a fast, that I am working on my metabolism, that I'm improving my metabolic health, and I am getting through this 24 hours, and I can visualize the 24 hours, the 36 hours, whatever number of hours that you've chosen. If you visualize that, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What's going on? What are the benefits that I'm getting in my body? Right? When I visualize that, now the body says, okay, that's what we need to make come true. It's amazing. It's amazing what the brain will do. And then educate yourself. So as we are going through fasting, there are lots of different ways of fasting, lots of different fasting methods. And you want to pick one that is coinciding with what you want to do. We did several shows where we talked about fasting, the different types of fasts. We have one show where we broke it up according to the hours of fasting. And then we did a show where we broke it up in terms of the types of disease processes that each fasting method has been studied to help. So research, look at those. What am I looking for? What benefit am I wanting? And then which one of the fasts aligns best with that? Okay? And you want to research that. And then begin writing some affirmations. I am fasting 24 hours. I am heading for my 24-hour fast. I'm doing a 36-hour fast. I do fast. When I fast, it helps my metabolism. When I fast, it helps my blood sugar. I am reversing my diabetes. I'm improving my metabolic health. Affirmations, so that as you get into the fast, if you run into situations where it becomes difficult or you have some challenges, you can go ahead and that phrase, that part, that affirmation is another reinforcement in your mind and another thing that the brain has to kind of grab onto. Within each of us, there is an inner critic and there's an inner coach. And they're always battling each other. And our goal is always to support the inner coach, that part of us that gives us a boost, and not the critic, because the critic remembers everything that you've done that's been negative. It's like, right, pulls it up on a computer. But what happens sometimes is the inner coach has amnesia. It forgets often the places where we've been successful. So the affirmation helps to build that up. And so the inner coach can always pull that out and say, oh, no, we're fasting. We fast. This is what we do. This is who we are. Okay? So begin building that. So mental preparation, very, very important. Nutritional preparation. As I mentioned, some people can become irritable because they don't do a good job here. They can become tired and fatigued because they don't do a good job here. So number one, you want to begin reducing carbs and sugar as you're moving towards the fasting space. I said that high sugar, high carbs will stimulate insulin because the body has to deal with the sugar. When insulin comes out, insulin stimulates your appetite. So if you have, say you're planning to fast starting at 6 p.m. on Friday, and all day you've been eating pasta, potatoes, pizza, drinking juice, drinking sodas, eating donuts. When you get into the fast, so you start the fast at 6 o'clock, but your body all day has been dealing with the sugar and the carbs. So now when you get into the fast, the body is still processing some of that, because the first 6 hours, and you'll see here in a minute, that's the postprandial period. So the body's still breaking down that food. And in order to deal with the sugar and the carbs, the body has to produce insulin. And that insulin that's there stimulates the appetite. So you get into the fast, which is great because you've started the fast, but the first several hours, maybe 24 hours, you're dealing with the side effects of the insulin that you just had, right? That's now going down, but it's been there and it stimulates your appetite for a long time into the fasting. So as we're getting into the fast, you want to decrease the carbs, decrease the sugar. You want to increase your healthy fats, because healthy fats help to satiate you. So if you've eaten fat as you move into the fast, as opposed to carbs, when you get into the fast, that fat that you ate, healthy fats by the way, the fat that you ate, it takes longer to digest, it keeps you fuller longer, so you get into the fast and you don't have those cravings. Right? And our next episode of the science of appetite has to do with how proteins affect our eating and our hunger. And then the next one after that, I think, is how fat will do that as well. Okay, so we're working through that process. All right, the next thing is you want to increase your water and electrolytes. If you don't get into a fast hydrated, then you set yourself up for difficulty in the fast. You may feel lightheaded and dizzy, right? Because the volume in your body is dropping, blood volume is dropping. You begin to feel palpitations, feel like your heart's racing and skipping a beat. And the reason that you feel palpitations is because when the blood volume goes down, the body still has to get the same amount of oxygen and nutrients to all the cells. Like, they don't say, hey, we know that you have less volume, so we're going to be okay taking less oxygen. No, the cells still need what they need. And so in order to fulfill that requirement, the body speeds up your heart rate, right? Because now we got to get the stuff, still got to get the stuff there. So how do we get the stuff there with less? We just move faster. And because we're moving faster, we feel that kind of like, or not kind of, we feel that as palpitations, like the heart's racing, skipping a beat, right? All of those things. So preparation, very important. And then gradually reduce your eating window. So we were talking to one of our community members in our episode last night, and the question was about fasting and not being able to maintain the fast. And so one of the suggestions is to start where you are, and once you get comfortable there, then begin to compress the amount of hours within which you eat. So if you normally eat for 12 hours during a 12-hour period, not eat for 12 hours all the time, but you eat within a 12-hour period, now change that to 10 hours. And then you change that to 8 hours. And then you change that to 6 hours. So what we're doing is we're eating during a smaller period. And as a result of shortening the eating period, what's happening is that the fasting period gets longer. Right? So we're concentrating on shortening the eating period, and as we do that, the fasting period gets longer. Right? So gradually reduce your eating window so that you can get to where you need to be in terms of the fast. All right, and then hydration, electrolytes. We talked about this. This is very important because if you get into the fast without the appropriate hydration or electrolytes, then you get all those symptoms: headaches, lightheadedness, dizziness, sweatiness, and so forth. Right? And people will say, oh, the fasting didn't work. Well, no, it's that we didn't do a good job getting into it. Intake adequate electrolytes. You can drink herbal teas as you're moving towards the fast because they calm you and they keep you hydrated. Most of us during fasting will become dehydrated. At least a little bit. If not, for a lot of us, a lot. So because when we don't eat, we tend to not also think about drinking. Right? So by virtue of that, we end up becoming dehydrated. And so you want to be sure that you're setting yourself up for success during the fast. And then physical preparation. So engage in light exercise. So if you're doing strenuous exercise as you're getting to the fast, you want to maybe begin scaling back on that. So light exercise. Unless you're doing a fasting workout. Now, fasting workout, those people who are trying to bulk up, bodybuilding, right? What they found is that if you fast and you work out, you get bigger muscles faster, because one of the hormones that comes out during fasting is growth hormone. And growth hormone is the muscle maintenance hormone, one. And also ketones are produced during fasting, and the muscles like ketones. Right? But if you're not doing that, then you want to begin cutting back and doing light exercises. Reduce strenuous exercise 1 to 2 days before you fast to avoid the fatigue. You want to aim for quality sleep. Getting good rest, the big one. Getting good rest is so important as you are moving in the direction of fasting. Because if you don't get good rest, when the body begins transitioning from carbohydrates to ketones, you will feel that as a big dip in your energy. Okay? And then begin reducing caffeine or energy drinks because of course, the withdrawal symptoms that you may sustain or feel as we get into the fasting. And then your environment. Clean out your environment. I can't speak enough about this. Remember our heat model. The heat model says that we eat because of habits, emotions, access, and taste. That the access, that means the stuff that's in your environment. If you know that you have a weakness for whatever it is, for me, Ben & Jerry's ice cream, then don't have Ben & Jerry's ice cream around when you're fasting. As a matter of fact, I don't have any Ben & Jerry's ice cream around right now. For a long time, we've not had any. It's been over a year that I've had Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Yep, now that I think of that. Okay? So clean out your environment. Create fasting-friendly zones. Keep your kitchen stocked with healthy teas, water, right? Fasting supportive drinks, like those electrolyte drinks. You can do that. And then prepare distractions. I sent a text to someone yesterday as they were coming to, or they were moving into their fast. I said, keep busy. Keep busy, stay hydrated. Because if you're busy, then there's less likely to be things around you that you see, access, or emotions that you feel, boredom, right? Or habits, routines that you get because you see other people sitting down eating, then those are less likely to be triggers for you because you're busy doing things. So prepare yourself for the fast by scheduling things for you to use. And then emotional and social support. Remember, it's not just about not eating. It also is about emotions and mentation. So let the people around you know what's going on, that you are fasting. Tell them, hey, I am in the process of fasting. That way they don't schedule things on your fasting day. You yourself, when you're looking at your calendar, don't schedule your fasting time during a time when you are going to be socially engaged with things that are related to food. I deliberately fast on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday because a lot of what happens in my life that surrounds food happens on the weekends, right? Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. We may go out of town. We may have stuff in our community. We may have things at church. We may have people over. And I don't want during that time to cause any friction, right? Emotional friction with the fasting. Because you know what's going to win? The community is going to win because we are built for community. So if we had to make a choice between fasting and just being part of the community, we're going to make the choice to be part of the community. And then we'll say fasting didn't work. Well, no, we just scheduled it at a difficult time. It's kind of like if you're going to be doing intermittent fasting, for example, and your family normally sits down to eat at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening, don't start your fast at 4 o'clock because you're automatically creating friction. Start it at a time after the meal so that you can sit and enjoy the family. Because if you don't do that, then automatically you're gonna have some difficulty. All right. Enough said about that. All right. So identify emotional triggers. Be aware of things that trigger you and come up with a plan. Be aware of things that trigger you and come up with a plan. As you get into holidays, for example, or birthdays, right? There are some significant feelings, emotions that come up around those times. They come every year. So begin saying, okay, what am I going to do when I begin feeling that? And then create accountability, right? Community is so important. That's why our triple E formula for success is so amazing, right? Educate, empower, and encourage. That encouragement that's talking about there, that is community. That's the people that you see that come on the show, people that are here that are sharing their stories, people that are encouraging each other. So that community, very important. You want to make sure that you are doing that because that sets you up for success. So, final words. So get lots of rest, stay hydrated, reduce your stress, and eat nutrient-dense meals. Right? So that's how we prepare. Right? All of that, and then those are the bullet points. And then, well, let's hop over and do one thing real quick. I see one of our community members. Let's see. Let's drop this one. All right. So Jennifer said, have a chicken cooking in the for family supper. Then we'll make bone broth with the carcass. Tomorrow's fast breaker for me. Okay, so tomorrow she's going to be breaking it. And then Steve says, hello, Jennifer. And hello, Steve. Hey, Steve, thank you for coming through. Jennifer, I need some of that broth. I am actually not sure what I'm going to break my fast with here in about 5 hours. Is it 5? 3, yeah, about 5 hours, 4 hours, 4+ hours. I haven't decided yet, but that sounds good. I love that. All right. So as we, so in terms of our fasting, so we've talked about preparing for the fast. Now we want to talk about what goes on in the fast in our bodies. And I usually talk about fasting in 24-hour periods, so 24, 48, 72 hours. But here we're going to do it a little bit more finely so we can see some other changes that happen in the body. And really, the very first part is what you heard me say a little while ago, is that postprandial period. Now, as I'm saying this and as I get into this, I want you to also, during the fast, the same things that we did prior to the, not the same things, some of the same things that we did prior to fast, that in preparing, we also have to continue doing here, like getting good rest, like decreasing our stress, like drinking water and taking care of our electrolytes. All of those are important in the fast itself. So they prepare us for the fast, but they also help to get us through the fast. So the first 6 hours, that's the postprandial phase. This is when the body is still processing the last meal, the last things that we did in terms of eating. Insulin levels are high. This is helping to break up the cells or uptake the sugar from the cells, and then it sends it out to storage. So digestion is still going on. Absorption is going on. The nutrients are being taken out of the food. Blood glucose levels are beginning to peak, right? Because all the sugar is coming out, all the carbs are coming out of the food. Energy levels initially are high, and this is because during this process we have a lot of sugar that's coming from the stuff we ate. This is why I mentioned during the preparation, you want to begin decreasing the amount of carbs or sugar that you're eating as you're moving towards fasting, because if you don't do that, then you come into fast and all of that sugar has to be dealt with. And in order to deal with it, the body has to produce enough insulin, and the insulin begins to stimulate appetite. It's all the downstream things that we talked about. Okay? So that is the first 6 hours. As we move into the next 6 hours, this is the early fasting state. So insulin levels begin to decrease because the sugars, the carbs have been being absorbed and being stored. Glucagon levels are increasing because remember, glucagon and insulin are opposite hormones. When you've eaten and blood sugars are high, then insulin is high. As the blood sugars begin to go down because the insulin is dealing with it, then glucagon comes out, because glucagon's job is to go find sugar so that the body can can continue processing. So it signals the liver to start releasing stored glucose. So glycogenolysis is happening. This is a breakdown of glycogen in the liver and forming glucose. It's kind of like when you go to the grocery store, you buy a big bag of rice. Well, you don't cook all of it. You take some out, you cook some of it. You put the rest bag into the pantry. The ones that you cooked, you may not eat all of it. So you cook some, you've eaten some, and then some goes into the refrigerator, and that's going to be leftovers. So what's happened is that we've eaten, the body has taken what it needs, it's stored the rest in the refrigerator, and then it has some more that it's stored in fat cells in the liver and muscles. So when the amount that we have in our blood goes down, then the body now goes to the liver to take some of that out. Think of that like a refrigerator. That's the leftovers. And then when that's done, then it goes to the pantry, which are the fat cells. Okay? We'll talk more about that here in a little bit. All right, so insulin levels are beginning to decrease. Glycogenolysis is happening. Energy levels begin to dip, to fluctuate as the body begins to transition from using circulating glucose to breaking down glycogen, right? So it goes from glucose that's there, breaking down the glycogen. And then at 12 to 18 hours, we're transitioning to using fat. So glucose levels continue to go down. And this says to the liver that, hey, we need to begin releasing fatty acids. And so the liver starts gluconeogenesis, that is creating sugar from non-sugar sources. So it's taking fat now and it's creating that. So ketones are low, but it's in the process of transitioning. And then the energy levels may dip, irritability, right, and hunger, right, may be seen here as the body's shifting. Once again, if you haven't slept well, if you're not hydrated, if you didn't eat nutrient-dense foods, you can feel this as a big dip, and people will, at this point, run into issues. And then if we get into the 18 to 24-hour period, so 18 to 24 hours, so glycogen stores are nearly depleted. right? So the liver is almost gone, or the glycogen that's there is almost gone. Autophagy starts up, and autophagy, remember, is that amazing process where the body begins to recycle, reclaim, deal with damaged parts of itself. So it goes out and it begins to collect all of those cells that are broken, not being used, misshapen, maybe having some abnormalities that may develop into cancer. The body's taking all of those and it's recycling them, it's breaking them down and putting them back into new, more usable forms. Amazing process. This is where we get those benefits of improved inflammation or immunity. We get cancer treatment here, right? Because the body's eating up all of those cells that are potentially going to be turned into cancer. This is where we get the benefit of those neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Just lost that one, right? We see improvement in our neuropathy. This is where that happens. And also we get those initial stages of mental clarity because the body is now using ketones, beta hydroxybutyrate, which is the one we've talked about, and is using that as a source of a steady source of energy, a cleaner source, a more consistent source of energy. And so people say, hey, I feel clear, my brain, I'm not foggy. And then fat adaptation. So the body has significantly now switched over to using ketones as its source of energy. So think about that hybrid car. So we've gone from using gas to using the battery, right? Steady source of energy. So we've gone from using carbohydrates to now using ketones as our primary source of energy. Fat oxidation increases, more fatty acids are converted into ketones. Energy levels are stabilized as the body becomes more efficient at burning ketones. When we talked about adaptation or flexibility, right? The body understands, hey, this is what we do. And so now it's very efficient at burning that. So that's getting into the fast, preparing for the fast, getting through the fast. And of course, now we've got to talk about how do we break the fast, because each component is just as important as the other. How you break the fast, very important. You saw Jennifer said that she's going to be having broth. I think I'm going to have some broth as well, Jennifer. And I got a new process that I'm going to be doing. I have some protein powder shakes that I'm going to be using. We'll talk about that. We'll share more about that as we get on. But breaking the fast, just as important. So what are some tips? Number one, we want to make sure that we're monitoring blood sugars. If you want to know how your body's being affected by food, being affected by sleep, being affected by the other things that you do, monitor, monitor, monitor. I have my monitors that I do that you've seen. I love them because they give me an instant, almost instant, idea of what's happening in my body based on what I eat. And I will sometimes make changes to what I do because I see the blood sugar. Make changes to what I eat because I see the blood sugar. Right? So monitoring. There is there are going to be two, but one now that's on the market, the Stello, and we've talked about that. We did a show on that. And if you don't have a Stello, go ahead and grab a monitor from your local pharmacy. You can buy them over the counter. Portion control, very important, because if you eat healthy foods, you can eat too much healthy foods. Now, I'm guilty of that, right? I've done that. So because cheese and nuts were healthier, I said, oh man, I can eat a lot of this. So I went on, eat. Blood sugars went up, weight went up, right? So you got to be careful. That's one of the concepts in our balanced bites, right? Remember, balanced bites, those things that we're going to use to fuel the body, one of those is portion control. Making sure that we're eating the appropriate portions. That's going to be important as we get into holidays, right? And then eat slowly. Eat slowly. Pace yourself. If you eat slowly, you're likely to eat less than if you just scarf it down. Enjoy the food. Savor the food. Enjoy the textures and the flavors and the colors and the smells. Right? Don't watch TV or play a game or scroll while you're eating because you're going to be distracted and you're less likely to enjoy the food. But when you enjoy the food, you eat more slowly. And then, of course, avoid sugary processed foods because when you eat processed sugary foods, you'll get the spike in insulin, and the insulin will stimulate your appetite. I tell people that the thing that you break your fast with is likely the types of things that you're going to eat for the next 24 to 36 hours. So if you start out by eating highly processed, high sugary foods, then your insulin's coming out, the ketones go down quickly. And remember, ketones suppress appetite. So if I get rid of all my ketones, then my appetite is stimulated, and my insulin also stimulates my appetite. And so now I'm feeling ravenous. And here's the thing. Because it happens on the heels of fasting, fasting gets blamed for that. But it's not a fasting. People say, well, I can't fast because when I fast, I eat I feel like I'm starving. Well, it's because of what we did post fast. Okay, so start slow. Bone broth. Well, we'll talk about that here in a minute. I was getting ahead of myself. All right. So fats. So hydration. Make sure you stay hydrated always. So hydration is good for preparing for the fast, for getting through the fast, and also for the fast, the post-fast. Make sure you're hydrated because if you're hydrated, that helps you, right, in having a great fasting experience. Coconut water, unsweetened, is great, and natural electrolytes. It replenishes you, it refreshes you. Herbal teas are good because they also calm you, they soothe you, they help with the stomach, particularly peppermint, ginger tea will help with that as well. Make sure that you are eating protein. One of the episodes we're going to do on the science of fasting, the science of hunger, has to do with protein and how proteins help with that. So eggs, chicken or turkey breast, tofu, tempeh for those people who are vegetarian or vegan, right? All of that, good protein. You want to make sure that you have a good source of protein as you are moving into the post-fast period. And then, of course, healthy fats, which also with protein will help to keep you satiated, keep you feeling less hungry. So avocados, great source of fats. Nuts, right? I've got to be careful with that because I have an interesting relationship with nuts. And then seeds. All of those are great places to get fats because the fats will help to slow digestion, and slowing digestion helps to keep you fuller longer so that you don't feel like you are starving or you don't have that big appetite. And then, of course, broths are what we recommend that you initially break the fast with, right? Nutrient-rich options to provide minerals, hydration without adding additional carbohydrates. So vegetable broth are great for that. Bone broth, right? Low sodium versions of what you want to do. Consider portions to manage protein intake. Right? Jennifer says she's going to be making some chicken broth. Right? So all of those, great for breaking the fast. So when you break the fast, some considerations. Choose foods that help you maintain stable blood sugar levels, that don't cause much fluctuation, that are nutritional in value, and are gentle on the stomach. Because remember, you've been fasting, particularly if you've done some of the longer fasts, 24 hours or longer, then your GI tract has calmed down. Some of those cells are relaxed now. So if you all of a sudden dump just a huge amount of food there, then that can set you up for nausea, upset stomach, indigestion, diarrhea, and on and on and on. Okay? You want to choose foods that have low glycemic index. Remember, low glycemic index for us are glycemic index of 50 or lower. Foods that have lean protein, healthy fats, and that will help with hydration. Okay? So that's what we want to do as we are moving through the fast. So preparing for the fast, getting into the fast, and post-fast, just all of those are important. Okay? All right, let's see. Lightworks is here. Let's stop over and say hello to another one of our community members. Hey, Lightworks, thanks for coming through and hanging out with us. Let's go ahead over and let's take a look at, do you guys want to see ketones first? Or do you want to see? I got to log back in because I've been talking and I got logged out. So let me do that really quickly. So what do you think my ketones are going to be? Right? If you're out there, go ahead and drop that into the comments. Let's see. All right, and let's take a look at my monitor. So I've got this here that we're going to come back to. So I'm going to do that in a minute. But if you look at my monitor, you'll see there that my average blood sugar is for the last 14 days. Let's see this one. Yeah, for the last 14 days, my average. Actually, I like this one. There we go. My average blood sugar is 123 for the last 14 days. I'm in target 95% of the time. Target being anywhere from 70 to 180. My, why does it not have my glucose management indicator? I think that's because I went for a while yesterday without a monitor. But let's see. Hopefully it'll give us one for the last 90 days. Yep, there we are. So average blood sugar of 132. In target 89% of the time. Target being anywhere from 70 to 180. And my glucose management indicator is 6.5. So that means if I were to get an A1C based on blood sugars now, my A1C would approximate 6.5. And then, of course, if I look at my daily graph, so we're 67 now, 67 plus hours right now. So let's go back. And so started fasting on Tuesday right about here. 83, 24 hours later, 86, 24 hours later, that was last night. We didn't have a number, but because that's where I had to change. And so we were 54. And then, of course, here we are at 70, what is it? No, 66, 67 hours. Blood sugar was 72. Okay? And then let's quickly hop over and see what my Keto Mojo is. So let's go ahead and grab that and grab my Keto Mojo. We'll go ahead and turn this on. And then let's go ahead and sync it so we can see what that is. And wow, let's see, did it sync? Ah, okay, wow, it went quickly. So glucose of 68. Let's see, did it sync? Let's try that again. Let's make sure I saw the right one. Okay, yeah, so 68 blood sugar, and my ketones are 2.7. So let's see. Steve said 2.1, so Steve, yay, close. Jennifer says 1.4, okay? So when we talk about ketones, and let's take a look at this graph. You see the tan line, those are my blood sugars. And then the turquoise line, that's ketones. So as blood sugar goes down, right? Because when I broke the fast, so when I started the fast, sorry. Actually, let me back up a little bit. So if I go back to last week, let's see. Okay, there we are. So as I started eating, right, the tan line went up and the turquoise line went down, because when blood sugar comes up, then insulin has to come out to deal with the blood sugar, and that helps, or that causes ketones to go down. Remember, ketones and insulin can't be in the same space. And then, as I started eating, right, blood sugar was 135. As I started fasting, blood sugars kept dropping, and ketones are going up. So now blood sugars are down here, ketones are up here. And for ketones, we want ketones to be between 0.5 or, well, not between, but 0.5 or higher. Because ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis. And then above 1.5 is therapeutic ketosis. So if we're going to talk about the metabolic benefits, we want ketones to be above 0.5 or above. Even if you keep it there, that's fine. right? And so remember, ketones give us an amazing number of benefits. As we talked about yesterday, one of the things they do is they help to suppress the appetite. So that's one of the reasons when people are fasting and they're in ketosis, or they're in a ketogenic diet, or they're doing a fasting mimicking diet, or any of those times when they can increase their ketones, their appetite tends to go down. Okay? Appetite tends to go down. Awesome. And then one of the other tools that we've learned is the tool of we've learned fasting, but our balanced bites. Balanced bites. Because just like fasting hits all of the pillars, so does the food choices we make. Whole foods, minimize processing, no added sugar, lean protein, healthy fats, starchy and non-starchy vegetables, tasty and flavorful, and portion controlled. If we keep that in mind, as we're eating, then we will be addressing our insulin level, addressing our appetite, and addressing the sugar that we're taking in. So balanced bites. So fuel your body with balanced bites. Every bite counts. Remember, there are things that are going to push us in a direction to break our fast, to get off of our eating plan, to not continue in our quest for metabolic health. And they are given, these are food triggers, by the habits we have, the emotions we feel, the access, that's the things around us, and the taste of the food. The habits, those are the routines that we've gotten into of eating even when we're not hungry. We eat because we're bored. Well, that's on the emotions. But we eat because everybody else is eating. We eat because we're at the movies. We eat because that's just what we do on this day, at that place, at that time. But we're not hungry. We eat because of emotions. Happy, sad, bored, frustrated, mad. All of those will push us in a direction to eat when we're not hungry. So managing emotions, the COPE model, is a very important way of dealing with triggers. And then we eat because of access, things just around us. The other day, I had to go in the pantry. I grabbed the trash bag and I dumped some stuff in there, put it in the trash. And of course, they took the trash away, right? Because I put it in there, but it was a clean bag, so I could theoretically have gone back and take it out, but right? And we eat because of taste. The perfect combination of fat, sugar, and salt. The manufacturer, they want you to not be able to just say, I'm going to have one. We're going to have a bag. We're going to have the whole sleeve. We're going to eat two. We're going to eat a pint. We're going to eat 2 juices. Drink 2 juices. 2 glasses of orange juice. And we're not chasing food. We're chasing what the food does. The space, the mind space it takes us. The calm that it sometimes seems to bring. The memory that it brings back to us of that time when we went to that place and we ate that thing with that person and we felt that way. So we're not chasing the food, but we're chasing what the food does. But remember, you have unlimited ability to make changes in your destiny, in your health right now. What's happened in the past is the past. You can't change that. But what you can do right now is you can set yourself up for success going forward. You'll hear me talking more about unlimited potential that you have, limitless living. And that all is made possible by the Triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the blogs, with the podcasts, with the shows that we do. We empower with the tools that you learn as we move through the shows. And we encourage with the community that you are building, that you are a part of. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. That is the Triple E formula for success. And you can apply that in the health space, but you can apply it across the board to lots of different areas of your life. Remember our pillars for reversing diabetes. We decrease insulin, we suppress the appetite, and we reduce our sugar. Fasting does that. Our balanced bites do that. And we'll learn some other things that will put us in that space as well. When you come, make sure that you are joining the challenges. Join in and become a part of. Practice the tools that we're learning. If you do that, you are setting yourself up for amazing success and for all of the unlimited potential you're able to tap into it. Share your story. Let us know that you are here. Let us know the successes you've had. what benefits you're getting. Like Jennifer said, she was fasting and she's extending that fast further. We see Steve put his ketones there, right? Jennifer talked about what she's going to be doing to break the fast. All of that helps all of the community. We can support you, and if we see you do it, we know we can. And if there are places where you're having challenges, the challenges are not just unique to you. Other people have those challenges as well. And we can rally around you so that we all know that we're not by ourselves. And then invite someone. Let someone know what's going on in this space. Let them know that they can come to a place where they can take control of their metabolic health. They don't have to wait for anybody to tell them what to do. We could learn what to do together, right? Invite them to this space. There are over 1 billion people on the planet that have diabetes or prediabetes, and an innumerable number of other people who have high blood pressure, heart disease, high blood pressure, fatty liver, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and on and on and on. You can be a voice for change. So invite somebody to this space. Let them know what's going on. I am always excited when we are in this space together. Love being here. Remember that we have videos from the vault tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Central. We have This Week in Review that will come 6 a.m. Central on Sunday, and then we're back here on Monday night for Dwain Woode MD Live at 7 p.m. Central. So glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're in this space. Thank you for being here, Jennifer and Steve and Lightworks and all of you who are over there, Mr. Forbes and Knight Bailey. Thank you for being here over there on Instagram. If you are out there and you've not said hello, say hello so that we can give you a shout out and know that you're there and acknowledge you. Okay? So thank you for coming through. Thank you for being with me. We will see you in. When are we going to see you? We'll see you again live on Monday, 7 p.m. Central, right here for Dwain Woode MD. Thank you for being here. Good night, everybody.